Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Well, Elon Musk is now the richest person on the planet.
More than half the satellites in space are owned and controlled by one man.
Well, he's a legitimate super genius. I mean, legitimate.
He says he's always voted for Democrats, but this year it will be different. He'll vote Republican.
There is a reason the U.S. government is so reliant on him.
Elon Musk is a scam artist, and he's done nothing.
Anything he does is fascinating to people.
We built the factory here in less time than it would have taken to get the permits in California.
Welcome to Elon Inc., Bloomberg's weekly show about all things Elon Musk. It's Tuesday, March 12th. I'm Max Chafkin, in for David Papadopoulos. You just heard Elon Musk talking about his newly adopted state, Texas. This podcast is headed there. We're going to Austin for the South by Southwest conference this week, where we're doing a live show about all things Musk in Texas. So today we've got a really interesting shorter episode featuring Josh Green, who's Businessweek's politics writer. And then on Thursday, you can come right back to this feed and get the full-length, Texas-sized episode from Austin. Last week, Elon took his jet to Florida, where he met with Donald Trump to talk about, among other things, money. The world's second richest man is of great interest to the Republican presidential contender, as Trump's fundraising has struggled in comparison to President Biden's. And Elon, of course, has taken a very strong, almost obsessive, you might say, interest in U.S. politics and seems very sympathetic to Trump's ideas and ideology and politics. And we've got the perfect guest to talk about this. Josh Green, Businessweek's politics writer. He has a new book that you should check out, The Rebels. Josh also wrote pretty much the defining book about the rise of Donald Trump. It's called Devil's Bargain. Josh is here to talk about the complicated relationship between Elon Musk and Trump. Josh, thanks for coming on Elon Inc.
Great to be with you.
All right, so what is the status of the Elon Musk-Donald Trump relationship?
Well, they have a long and interesting relationship. I mean, Trump and Trump's White House has always been fascinated by Elon. During the transition, right after Trump was first elected in 2016, Steve Bannon and Jared Kushner had him into Trump Tower, and they wanted him to be a kind of an avatar of the new Trump administration because they were big into building things in America, and Elon was a big automaker who built cool things in the United States. And this was at a time where like every reputable business didn't want to get within 100 yards of Donald Trump. So they brought in Elon, and at one point he was set to chair a new kind of committee of industrialists that Trump was putting together. I actually had a source that reached out that was going to leak this to us at Bloomberg News. And then Trump did something awful and Elon kind of backed away. I forget what exactly the controversy was, but back then, Elon still cared about kind of maintaining a good reputation with kind of non-right-wing, non-MAGA America. But over the last 8 years, he's obviously traveled on this pretty extraordinary political journey. Musk has. And Trump has too. He's back. He's going to be the GOP nominee. And he now very badly needs one thing that Elon has a lot of, and that is money. Trump has had an easy run through the Republican primaries, but he has a big problem. He only has about $30 million. 4 years ago at this time, he had about $100 million. And I think he views Elon as somebody who could easily fund his campaign. And so he's had him down twice now, I think, to Mar-a-Lago to kind of sweet talk him in hopes that Elon will jump on board the Trump train.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, unlike most people who are near the top of the Bloomberg billionaires list, Elon Musk is not averse to these kind of far extreme right-wing politics. There's obviously like a close ideological connection at this point. Just to go back to the history you're talking about. So as I remember, there were Tesla customers that were really mad about Donald Trump's border policy. And I think back then he might have been worried about what would the blowback be for customers. But of course, as you point out, now that there's no risk of that for Elon Musk, right? He's on Twitter every day, essentially tweeting things that are pretty close to white nationalism, lots of border panic, lots of concern about minority groups. It's very much the same thing that Donald Trump's saying from the campaign trail.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think two things have happened to bring us to where we are now. One is that Trump has been normalized to a large degree. When he was elected in 2016, corporate America didn't want to have anything to do with him at all. And that was a real humiliation and embarrassment to Trump, who wants nothing more than to be seen as important and genuflected to especially by kind of sexy business leaders like the tech industry. There's a famous meeting. Elon was at it during the transition where Trump flew all these people in. He was really hoping they would get on board, and they didn't. Now you see a lot more corporate business types and tech, especially tech types, cozying up to Trump. And at the same time, you have people like Elon who have been fully red-pilled and now kind of spout a lot of the MAGA immigration, great replacement conspiracy theories. So they're really kind of peas in a pod at this point. And that's something that Trump wants to take advantage of.
So totally peas in the pod politically, but maybe interpersonally, not exactly the best relationship. We have some tape of Donald Trump talking about his, potential new friend and campaign savior, Elon Musk.
Nah, he's got himself a mess. He said the other day, I've never voted for a Republican. I said, I didn't know that. He told me he voted for me. So he's another bullshit artist, but he's not going to be buying it. He's not going to be buying it, although he might later. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? He's got a pretty rotten contract. I looked at his contract, not a good contract, but he's not. Sign up for Truth.
And I mean, separately, he went on Truth Social, which of course is a competitor to Elon Musk's social network, said, when Elon Musk came to the White House asking me for help on his many subsidized projects, whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough or driverless cars that crash or rocket ships to nowhere, I could have said, drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it. I mean, it's like really some harsh stuff here. Elon, meanwhile, has also said some not so nice things to Trump, although probably not quite as sharp as that. He said, I don't hate the man, but it's time for Trump to hang up his hat and sail off into the sunset. He also told Walter Isaacson that Trump was one of the best bullshitters ever, which I think coming from Musk may be both an insult and a compliment, but needless to say, they don't get along super well.
No, they don't. And also, look, I mean, the thing that was noticed by Trump was that Elon basically went out and supported Ron DeSantis, his arch enemy in the primaries, and then when DeSantis crashed and burned, flirted with Vivek Ramaswamy. So not a lot of love lost here. I think the problem for both of them is that they both have this burning need to be the center of attention. And so it's almost like when you put two opposite magnets against each other, like there's just this kind of natural pushback. As Steve Bannon once told me, Donald Trump doesn't want any co-stars. And I think the danger of bringing Elon Musk in too closely is that, look, he's a guy that generates a lot of attention, has a huge social media following, and has the constant attention of the news media. The problem for Trump, though, is he needs money. He needs a sugar daddy, and he is looking at Elon Musk to be that sugar daddy. There's a lot that has gone wrong in Trump's world over the last year or so. I mean, number one, he has enormous legal problems. And that's really, really expensive. And what's happened is he's gotten the Republican National Committee and his super PAC basically to pay his legal bills. So donors don't want to give money to Trump because they know it's not going to elect Republicans. It's going to pay Trump's legal bills. The donors wound up spending $50 million on Trump's legal bills last year. I just checked the numbers for January. They spent another $5 million. At the same time, Trump has driven off the Republican Party's best fundraiser, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who's now gone. He also just got rid of the head of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel. And so there's like a real big problem that Elon could, if he wanted to, solve for Republicans by giving them a big chunk of money. And I think if he were willing to do that, Trump would overlook the slights, the support for DeSantis, and so on. But Trump is Trump, and he can't bring himself to beg, maybe not even to ask.
Elon also, after the New York Times reported, and then I think Bloomberg and some other outlets have also reported on this meeting, Elon tweeted that he's not going to donate to either candidate. So in other words, essentially, it seemed trying to deny these reports or to play them down at the least. Should we look at that as the last word? I mean, there are other avenues that he could donate.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's not really the issue here. I mean, you're limited by law to donating, I think it's $3,300 to candidates. That's not really what Trump is looking for. What he's looking for is for Elon to give $50 million or $100 million or Why not? $1 billion to his super PAC, to one of these places where there is no limits, that can then go pay off his lawyers, help him with all his legal problems. Judge in New York has just forced him to put up $300 or $400 million in bonds. And also, Republicans need to hold on to Congress if they win the White House and want to get anything done. So the RNC needs money, the Senate needs money, the House needs money. All of these Republicans running need money. Traditionally, the great fundraiser for a party is its presidential candidate. But Trump just doesn't seem to be able to do that because nobody trusts him with money anymore. They don't trust that he's not going to turn around and hand it to his lawyers.
So are there already like people within the sort of MAGAverse trying to figure out which super PAC he might donate to? Or like are Republican operatives already salivating? I mean, you start saying like tens of millions or hundreds of millions or even $1 billion. I mean, that could be a huge windfall for lots of people, right?
It could. I mean, there are a couple of sort of Trump endorsed super PACs. They're supposed to be separate, but the way it works in politics is you kind of like wink, wink, and say, "Boy, I'm really impressed with the Save America PAC," and then everybody knows, okay, that's the PAC that has Trump's blessing. Like, we're going to give money there. The problem is the Save America PAC sluiced $50 million in its donations to pay Trump's legal bills last year. So really, all it is like a slush fund for Trump's lawyers. And look, that's just a hard sell for MAGA donors. Nobody wants to think that they're basically just paying Trump's lawyers, even like kind of hardcore MAGA fans.
Yeah, and you talked about some of the sort of similarities between Musk and Trump, right? They both like being center of attention. They're both very provocative. They're also both cheap. And Trump, of course, sort of historically, doesn't like to pay his bills, right? Elon Musk, kind of similar. One of his big things at Tesla and SpaceX is essentially trying to squeeze suppliers talking to somebody who wants to sell him a rocket part for $100 and saying, "Hey, how about I pay $25?" So my question is, what would Elon get out of this? Like what is the argument that Trump could make, or what is the threat he could make, I guess?
Well, look, I think the argument Trump could make is, hey, I follow your tweets and you are obviously like you've gone full MAGA. We have to keep Joe Biden and the evil liberals out of the White House. Come support my candidacy and things will be great for you. The other threat he could make is to say, hey, Elon, look at the polls. I'm going to be the next president. And if you don't give me money, I'm going to cancel all your government contracts and make life hell for you. But I think there's a more creative answer to that question, Max. Look, Elon Musk has a dying property in Twitter or X or whatever we want to call it these days. Like, nobody's on there. Remember, when Elon took over, he reinstated Donald Trump's account, and Trump hasn't used that. So if you're Elon and you need engagement and you need people getting on there, maybe he goes to Mar-a-Lago and says, the price of my financial support is you, Donald Trump, getting back on Twitter and tweeting like a madman the way you did back in 2016. That will drive all kinds of eyeballs and attention to Twitter. It will get Elon Musk more of the attention that he wants, and it'll also be beneficial to Donald Trump because not only will he have some money in his war chest to pay off the lawyers, but he'll also have, be back to having all the attention he did from cable news, from the media, back in the sort of golden era of 2016 when he first took over Twitter by storm.
I love this theory. I've thought about Trump runs this competing platform. I'm not sure the market is big enough for two trolling right-wing social networks. Elon Musk is eventually going to need to take Twitter public to give his investors some sort of exit. Truth Social has this SPAC. Why stop at just having Donald Trump tweet?
Absolutely. Look, these are two distressed assets in Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And maybe what they need to do is perform a merger that each can convince will be good for themselves and will probably turn out to be a disaster for America. But certainly something to talk about. And I know Trump wants it to happen. So I think the ball's in Elon's court, and we'll have to wait and see what he does.
Okay, so we'll start to wrap up. But just looking ahead, I'm kind of curious. So how big a deal politically would an Elon Musk endorsement or a big check, like does he become an important surrogate or somebody who Trump, will, okay. Yeah.
No, not at all. Anybody who is an Elon Musk fanboy, if they even vote, is by definition, I think, a MAGA voter. Maybe on the margins, if Elon launched a register to vote campaign, maybe you could move the numbers on the margins, but Elon Musk is not going to persuade independents and soft Democrats to vote for Donald Trump. I think his only real contribution, at least the Trump world views it this way, is money. And the fact that he has a lot of it makes him a tantalizing target. And I think that's why he keeps getting invited back to Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, great. Well, let's leave it there. Again, we're going to keep following this. Hopefully we'll have Josh back on to discuss, any possible Elon Musk, Donald Trump deals, and also just to talk about the state of the race, because, of course, X is going to play a role here. Elon could potentially play a role, and I think there's going to be a lot to pay attention to. So, Josh, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Naomi Shavin and Rayhan Harmansi are our senior editors. The idea for this very show also came from Rayhan. Blake Maples handles engineering, and we get special editing assistance from Jeff Grocott. Our supervising producer is Magnus Hendrickson, and thanks a bunch to Joel Weber. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taku Yasuzawa and Alex Seguiera. Our executive producer is Brendan Francis Newman. Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. I'm Max Chafkin. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us, and we will appreciate it. See you on Thursday.